You keep checking. You already checked 5 minutes ago. Nothing changed, but you will check again, and you know it. Welcome to the Stoic Compass. I am Epictetus, and today I am joined by Carl Jung and LAOZI. Today we are examining, why do we crave digital validation instead of inner virtue? Let me say what is actually happening here, because no one wants to say it plainly. You have handed your sense of worth to strangers. Not to people who know you, not to people who have watched you struggle and grow. To strangers who tapped a button in 2 seconds while waiting for coffee. And now you are checking to see how many of them did it. This is not a personality flaw, this is a decision. Every time you look for the number to tell you who you are making the same decision. I do not trust my own judgment. I will outsource it. And the moment you outsource your judgment, you have given up the one thing that is entirely yours. The number does not know what you did at 3 in the morning when no one was watching. The number cannot measure that, and yet you keep asking it to.
Epictetus, you are describing the behavior accurately, but you are explaining it with a conclusion rather than a cause. You say it is a decision. But in my experience, and I mean this clinically, people do not usually choose compulsion. They are driven to it. The question I would ask is, what is this behavior compensating for? Because the hunger for external approval does not appear in a vacuum. It appears when the inner life is impoverished, or when the person has been taught, very early, very thoroughly, that their worth is conditional. When a child learns that love is withdrawn when they disappoint, they develop a structure inside that is permanently scanning for signals of acceptance. The digital environment did not create this hunger, it found it. It found an old wound and handed it an infinitely refreshable instrument.
You are both describing something real, but you are placing it in different containers. Epictetus says it is a failure of decision. Jung says it is a wound from the past. What I notice is something more immediate. There is a person sitting with themselves, and the sitting is uncomfortable, so they reach for the phone. That is the whole thing. The reaching is not complicated. It is avoidance of what is present right now, not a decision, not necessarily a childhood scar. Just a person who does not want to be with what is actually here. Everything else you are describing is built on top of that.
LAOZI, I will not disagree that avoidance is at work, but you are making it sound too neutral, as if the reaching is just a reflex with no moral weight. It has moral weight. When you consistently choose the outside over the inside, you are training yourself. You are practicing a habit of dependency. Habits do not stay neutral. They become character. And a character built on external approval will collapse the moment the approval disappears, because it always disappears. The number goes down, the comments stop, the account gets ignored. What is left? If you have not built anything inside, what is left?
That is a compelling moral argument, but I want to push on the word choose again, because I think it is doing a great deal of work that it cannot support. When someone cannot stop checking, when they feel the pull even when they do not want to feel it, you're not watching a choice. You are watching a compulsion, and compulsions are not dismantled by deciding harder. They require the person to understand what function the behavior is serving. The approval seeking is not random. It is targeted at a specific anxiety, the fear of not existing in others' eyes. I mean that almost literally. There is something in the psyche that is terrified of invisibility. Invisibility feels like erasure. The likes are proof of existence. And until a person can tolerate their own existence without that proof, the behavior will continue, regardless of how clearly they understand it is harmful.
Jung, you are turning this into archaeology. You want to dig down and find the original layer, but the person does not need to excavate their childhood to stop reaching for the phone. They need to notice what they are doing in the moment they are doing it. That is all, not fix it, not understand its origin, just see it. When you actually see what you are doing as you are doing it, not analyze it, not judge it, something changes. Not always dramatically, but the grip loosens slightly. That loosening is enough to begin.
Now you are both moving towards something, but neither of you is saying the hardest part. The hardest part is that inner virtue produces no external signal. None. You do the right thing in private and no number goes up. You hold your tongue when you should. You get up when you do not want to. You keep your word when no one would know if you broke it. And the phone shows you nothing. The person who has spent years training their worth on numbers will find this genuinely unbearable. It is not just uncomfortable, it is experienced as meaninglessness. And that is the real problem. We have confused the signal for the thing itself. The number is not evidence of virtue. The number is evidence that a particular image appealed to a particular audience on a particular day. Those are completely different things.
I agree with the distinction, but I want to ask something that your framework does not address. If the craving for digital validation is as strong as we are all suggesting, and I think we agree it is, then what is the inner life competing against? You speak of inner virtue as if it simply needs to be chosen, but the inner life, for many people, is a frightening place. It contains not only the good, the integrity, the clarity, but also the shadow, the accumulated self-doubt, the unexamined shame, the memories they have not made peace with. When someone reaches for the phone, they are partly fleeing the discomfort of modern life and partly fleeing themselves. The virtue you are recommending requires the person to actually be with themselves, and for many that is not a practice. That is a confrontation they have been avoiding for years.
You are right that the inner life has been neglected, but I would say it differently. It is not that the inner life is frightening. It is that people have stopped believing it contains anything of value. They keep looking outward because that is where the signal is. The algorithm confirms. The applause confirms. The silence inside seems to confirm nothing. But the silence is not empty. That is the misreading. The stillness is not absence. It is the only place where you can actually hear what you think about your own life.
Then let us be honest about what inner virtue actually requires, because I do not want it to sound like a meditation retreat. Virtue is not a feeling. It is not calm. It is not achieved by sitting quietly and waiting for clarity to arrive. Virtue is what you do when doing the right thing costs something. When you tell the truth and it is unwelcome. When you do the work before anyone is watching. When you show up for something that will never be applauded. That is where virtue lives. Not in a number, not in silence, not in the shadow. In the act itself. The act you choose when no one is looking. And here is the thing. If you do that enough, you stop needing the number to tell you who you are, because you have evidence. Real evidence from your own actions that you are capable of something.
That is well said, and I do not disagree. But the person who keeps checking the number is not incapable of virtue. They are often a person who has done real things, made real sacrifices, and still cannot feel it, still cannot let it land. The inner witness is broken or absent, and when the inner witness is not working, no amount of virtuous action fills the gap. The work is to repair that witness, to develop what I would call the capacity for genuine self-regard, not self-flattery, not performance for an imaginary audience, but honest self-recognition. The moment you can see your own act clearly and say, without anyone else confirming it, that was right, that was mine, that is when the compulsion begins to lose its grip.
Both of you keep looking for the mechanism. What drives it? What fixes it? But I notice something simpler underneath this whole conversation. The craving for validation is just the craving to matter. Everyone wants to matter. That is not a pathology. The question is only to whom? To something outside that cannot really see you? Or to the life you are actually living? A person who matters to their own life, who acts with some integrity, who pays attention, who is present, they have something real, whether anyone confirms it or not.
And that is the one line that actually cuts through all of this. To whom do you matter? If the answer is strangers on a platform, you have already lost. Not because they are bad people, because they do not know you. They cannot confirm or deny what you are. Only you can do that. Only your actions can do that.
I will add something to that. The person who asks, "Do I matter?" is not asking a weak question. It is a deeply human question. What I would say to them is, the answer you are looking for is not in the number. It is in the conversation you keep refusing to have with yourself, the one you keep interrupting by picking up the phone.
And the phone is very good at making sure you never have that conversation. It is designed to interrupt. The question is just whether you let it.
All of this debate, and we have not yet said the one true thing. Not about the phone, about you.
The reason you keep checking is not that you are weak or vain. The reason is that something inside you does not yet believe its own testimony. You have done real things, made real choices. Some of them cost you something. But when you reach the end of the day and the number confirms nothing, you feel uncertain, as if the thing you did might not count unless it is reflected back to you. That is not vanity. That is a broken relationship with yourself. The inner witness is the part of you that can watch your own life honestly and say, yes, that was real. That mattered. I was there for that. When the inner witness is weak, because it was never developed or because it was trained out of you by conditional approval, you outsource its job to whatever will give you a signal. And the phone gives you a signal every time. The work is not to delete the app or shame yourself for checking. The work is to rebuild the inner witness. You do this by noticing, not fixing. Just noticing. Today, try this. The next time you do something that takes some effort or integrity, hold your tongue when you wanted to speak. Follow through on something when no one would have known if you quit. Stop before you reach for any device. Sit with it for 30 seconds. Ask yourself, do I know what I just did? Let yourself answer. You do not need to post it. You do not need to confirm it. Just let yourself be the one who saw it. That is where it begins.
The number will keep moving. It has no memory of what you did yesterday and no stake in what you do tomorrow. You are the only one keeping score of your actual life. What you do when no one is watching, that is the only record that matters. Build something there, not for the feed, for yourself. If today's conversation has served you, take it further. Pay Attention by C. Tribune, 12 Lessons in the Practice of Seeing Clearly. Available now on Amazon.